This is my 91 350 SDL. It recently has developed a very bad vibration moving off from a stop, so I wanted to look into it. So the setup here is I have the car on ramps and blocked at the front. This one wheel lifted off the ground with a jack stand, and the other side is securely chalked. First interesting thing I noticed is that if I put the car, it's in park right now, if I go into neutral and let off the brake, the wheel will spin, and it does the same, does a little less when it's in neutral versus drive. It's probably just the fluid pushing the internals of the transmission. Now that brake rotor is a little rusty, so that's the scraping sound. But I wanted to show you the drive shaft. Now of course I'm going to climb under this car while it's running it in gear. Just barely. You want to be extraordinarily careful if you're ever doing this. If we look here at the carrier bearing, you can see it wobbling around significantly, and the bearing carrier, the rubber piece, has become very very torn. So what I think has happened here, get out from under here, is that the universal joint has failed and is causing a vibration because it's binding. You can see how much that's moving around. So my goal for tonight is to get this drive shaft out of the car and see if I can see what's wrong. Hopefully a drive shaft shop can rebuild that universal joint, because Mercedes does not sell the individual piece. You have to replace the entire drive shaft. Oh, and here's a bit of trivia for the 126 fans. The 350 SDL is the only 126 body car to get 2 carrier bearings. Every other 126 just has one about here in the middle. The 350 SDL has 2 U-joints, 2 slip joints, and 2 carrier bearings. Okay, got the prop shaft out of the car, and now we can clearly see what's going on. This rubber mounting here at the front bearing has completely disintegrated, even though it was actually a Mercedes OEM part. The bearing has failed. If we move to the rear carrier, it's still pretty decent. If I give it a spin, no noise, moves smoothly, so I think that one's okay. And the U-joints, despite being original from 1991, don't have any, there's no play, they move freely. You can see where this one had been hitting the car, but yeah, there's no play there, turns freely. So I think that is just fine. Now, one thing I wondered was if at the front of the car, where this yoke goes into the transmission, if maybe it wasn't seated down in there fully or uneven, causing this front drive shaft section to wobble. So I'll have to check that out. I'd had another mechanic work on this car previously, and I don't think that he reassembled the drive shaft correctly, because right here you can see is a splined section, and if you look, there's this mark right here, which, as I understand it, is supposed to line up with this mark right here. I don't know if you can see that, but clearly they are not lined up, so I will try to do that when I put it back together. When I took this apart originally back in Michigan, I had tried to mark it with some paint, but and line it up with this little notch, but there are multiples of those on this piece. So. Anyway, I have a new bearing in hand, but these boots are going to need replacement, so I don't think I'm going to get this completed today. But that makes me happy that the universal joints are still in good shape. Okay, well, we'll see where that goes. Actually, I may have spoken too soon when I said these universal joints were okay. As I move this around, there is a definite almost like a detent when it's in the straight ahead position. I don't know if that's normal or not. I'll have to do some reading, but you can see definitely that this bearing totally fried. If I compare that front U-joint to this rear one, this one moves with no binding at all. So I think that front U-joint is going to need replacement. So I guess I'll conclude this video for now and send this off to the drive shaft shop, see what they can do with it, and then we'll worry about putting it back into the car. It'll be nice to get this thing back on the road. I haven't driven it in about a year. Okay, well, thanks for watching. I'll post an update when I hear from the drive shaft shop.